Several medical associations, such as the Tamil Nadu Government Doctors Association, condemned the film for the alleged cynical portrayal of doctors working in government-operated hospitals. Doctors working with the Indian Medical Association shared links of the film on pirated websites online in the hope that it would cause monetary losses to the makers of the film. If you want a bunch of people to not think you're dirty, then do something dirty. That'll convince someone. It's the last line in the Wikipedia page when I was just going over this to make sure I had all my facts straight. And it's just like, what were you thinking? If you want a bunch of people to not think you're crooked, to do some crooked shit. Anyway, what's up, SuperViewers? I'm Brian Ellis Clark, and this is my Mersal review. Let's get over to my tweets for the notes. First off, this movie was good. This movie had good action. Was it, in my opinion, action on the Vivagam level? No, that movie was all crazy action. This was very different. Did this have a better message than Vivagam? Yes, it did. It had a message. It had a very timely message. I think it was a couple months ago that I saw a news report about 21 people dying in a government hospital in India because they hadn't been paying their bills, which is just crazy for anywhere. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm not informed on that matter, but I love that this movie had that message, and it was a strong message, wrapped up in such an intriguing mystery action film with spectacle and just it had a playfulness to it, or a spark in it that I totally connected with. But let's get into it. First off, I love, what's up, Jazz? I love that I see alcohol and cigarette warnings at the beginning of movies, of the movies that I've been seeing, most of them from India. Love it. Great detail. It would never get past here because government can't do jack here with all the lobbying. But that first minute or two, let me get into my tweets. Ambulance driver got knocked out, and now the guy is kidnapped off his moped, and dude vanishes in an elevator. Damn, this movie moves fast. For a 3-hour movie, this is moving like the first couple minutes of a Law & Order episode. I like that they're not wasting time. Now, thank you for the like, whoever gave it. Now, in a Law & Order episode, you might get a motive by the end of a 40-minute episode. You won't get more time with the character. Not very much, if at all, because it's a 40-minute episode. What's up, Selena? Thank you for that thumbs up. Spoilers. I'm a minute in, but spoilers. This is not a spoiler-free review. But this movie, it plays with time and its structure so great, and it doesn't hold your hand at all. Doesn't care about that. You will figure it out by the time the movie is over. But there was 2 hours and 30 minutes out of this 3-hour movie where I still like, I still don't know what's going on with that and that. If you've seen the movie, you understand, but I'll dive into it more. I like when they went to catch him, that it started off with a fleet of drones when they went to go catch Dr. Maran. Or at that point, was it Vetri? Or Dr. Maran pretending to be Vetri? Anyway, now I'm just getting mixed up. I made a mistake with my other reviews of waiting like 5 days for the last 2 reviews, and I felt like I didn't give as in-depth a review, so I'm trying to make this as timely as possible. To my knowledge, they didn't do it again, but I like that right before they breached the building, there was a lot of split screen or quite a few shots of split screen for all the guards and police as they were getting ready to go in. Just built up the tension for me. It was a nice touch. Wow, I did 100 tweets. Over 100 tweets in this. It's a 3-hour movie. 30 tweets an hour, one every 2 minutes. When we first see Vetri's Magician's Warehouse, and we don't know it's Vetri, it does not tell. Nothing explicitly tells you. There's great stuff when you look back and what the twist is revealed, but when you see Vetri's Magician Warehouse, that was so much fun. That felt like we took our time, which we needed. We needed that time to spend because he was such an important character. The people that get killed, not so much. Not important to the character motivations. But I immediately started getting angry at the racist Paris airport security. And then when the woman passed out from the coffee, I wrote, "From the period offer." This is the risk of trying to type fast while watching a movie to tweet out. But the shot with her falling back and the camera follows her to the ground. Oh, that was great. That was, you wouldn't expect that for such a benign moment. A moment for a character who's not important to the story. But then we saw some awesome... This is where I started getting confused. I wasn't able to... It made it harder for me to differentiate Moran from Vetri. Was that he fought off the Paris guards and just ran. And he got there quick. But thank God he saved her. I said, oh damn, he's a badass out of nowhere. And to put a nice pin on it, I love that this wouldn't happen in the real world, unfortunately. But the Paris security guards immediately realized that they made a mistake. They let him go, and he says in Tamil, "If my language and my attire bother you, I don't have to change. Only you. Love it." And then he talks to the guard to a security guard or a agent, airport agent, who is from India and speaks to him in Tamil. And he says, "Tamil bonds us." Which I love the pride that this movie had over the language of Tamil. I didn't think it was disrespectful, although I could see how other languages could see it, because they were saying it was the mother of all languages and things like that. But it felt like they just loved their language. And then Dr. Moran is very close to what the medical industry used to be in America, which it reminded me of because there was a Adam Ruins Everything episode, which talks about the corruption of the medical industry. It used to be like a normal business. They'd spend a certain amount of money, and then they'd put a small markup to make a profit, and that's what you'd pay. And then insurance companies became institutionalized, and they went and they're like, well, we need a big discount so I can tell my boss we got a big discount. It's like, but then we'd lose money. It's like, you know what? I'll mark up our prices so then we can give you a deep discount. Sounds good to me. And it just went from there and went crazy. So, that's how you can get a thing of pudding for $69. I want the medical industry to be more like Dr. Moran. And I was saying that before they were preaching the medical angle of how it's so corrupt. Then he's talking about how he wants free medical care for everyone, from the richest person to the poorest person getting the same care, which I also agreed. That's a great dream for medical care for all that I wish America felt and agreed with. Then, after all that, after getting recognized for his good work and how wholesome he is in the medical community, this skeezy doctor who plays in later comes as like, you need to work for us. We make great money. You being there would be great for our name. But it's clear he doesn't want to change shit about the corruption that Dr. Moran is talking about being the problem. So, and I had to paraphrase, but he just rips him a new asshole. I love it. Pardon my French, but he eventually says something along the lines of, only cuss words will pierce your thick skull. And I love that because I've known quite a few bullies just like that. All they hear, they don't hear anyone else's opinion, but once you like get so frustrated with them because they keep backing you corner, not leaving you alone, and a swear word enters the vocabulary, they go, oh no, why do you have to swear? Why do you have to swear? And they use that as another bullying tactic. I love how I just took him down. Moran's mom is adorable, which it turns out she's the adopted mom. But I love that. And when he asks if there was another child, she says no. She doesn't tell him that he's adopted, which is actually a nice touch. It's technically a betrayal if she doesn't just tell him when he wants to know, like, hey, he's asking about if there's another child. Maybe there was. Maybe I should tell him that he's adopted. But instead, she just keeps up the lie, but doesn't think there's another child, so she's kind of telling the truth. I would totally see some parent adopting a child and then being afraid of a rift coming between them to not tell them the truth about their heritage. But neither here nor there. Just a small detail that crossed my mind after the film that they don't address. So I like it. It's kind of like Kung Fu Panda. The first one, he does not acknowledge that he is adopted. Neither one does. They get into it in 2 and I believe 3. I saw the trailer for 3. But I just like that. And then his magic trick with the money for the coffee, great, but that wasn't Moran. That was, I keep forgetting, Vetri. But they're still not spoon feeding us, and it's so long in the movie. And then there's there's the robbers, and he takes her ring that she doesn't want to give up, puts a tarantula in the robber's hand, and just kicks everyone's ass. But it's awesome, and once again, no repercussions. It's just great movie making. You don't need to add like 20 minutes of, we're filing police reports, these people were trying to rob everybody, this is blah blah blah. You don't need that. Let's just keep moving. Then they have their 3 wonderful days together, which is wait, before that, his friend looks to the girl who's, I guess, to him, dressed like a boy. And he's like, hey, bro. And she's like, I'm a girl. Girl? You never told me. And the robbers seem to be wearing those Joker masks from The Dark Knight in the beginning when all the robbers are killing each other. That was a nice touch. I even asked, this is when I started getting suspicious and confused, which character is in the coffee house doing all the magic? Because I noticed on IMDb that he had different character names. But that was cool. And I love the song, I forget the title off the top of my head, but the one that keeps saying Illusionist Charmer every time he's doing magic. I like it. And his magic is insanely unbelievable, but I didn't care. And later they actually justify it with the 3, I got it in my notes, but it's like genuine magic. Like a detective goes and he's like, I know this shit is fucked up. It's not tricks, it's not illusions, it's magic. But they treat it so down to earth. Just another nice touch. They don't waste time having people saying stuff, and no offense to it, but saying, I don't believe in things like chakras and blah, blah, like Doctor Strange. There's no moment where everyone's like, that can't be real. Just do it and move. And then after that, when he goes back to, I think he's tailing someone, he runs into her again. But this, again, is, I don't know, I keep having a look. I know Moran, Vetri. It's because most of the movie I was like, I know Moran because I said Moran, but who is that? Who is that? When Vetri has the black cloak and the Red Cross look, I thought he just changed his clothes really quick, because there's been like musical numbers where that all happens in allegedly real time, but they just keep changing. So it didn't take me aback. I wasn't like, oh, that's unrealistic, but I did like that. And then their song was great. There was animations, there was like emojis and stuff. It felt, I wrote, like a modern, slightly more adult Mary Poppins sequence, if that makes sense. Like no 2D animation, just if it was originally created today, I feel like it would kind of look like that if it was more real world. And then he turned her into a rabbit for like a second in the theater, I think. But I did like that. And then I didn't have anything new to say in my notes, but that whole magic show was very nice. And then when he wins, when he gets his way and gets her boss on stage, who's the crook, he does the sword trick, and there's 4 swords that go all the way up, and they all just go through without hurting him. And the first one is fine. Then the second one was the editing was so quick. I was like, did he actually stab him? He didn't. Spoilers. And then the third one went in, and then he just took a moment to talk to the audience to really build up the suspense. I was like, ooh, that's just a good magic trick for the audience in the movie and for us audience. Loved it. Gonna keep that in mind if I ever want to build a little suspense in my own movie making. But then he goes and real blood comes out. He stabbed the guy, which was enough. You knew it was coming, but it was still like, oh, because right before he revealed his mask and you saw the guy tense up. It's like Star Wars The Force Awakens, when people knew that spoilers, that Han Solo was going to get killed by Kylo Ren, and that whole time, as soon as you go out on the walkway, you know he's dead. But it just built up the tension. It just built up. It wasn't some jump scare surprise. It was like, oh, it's happening. And then, but once it happens, you're like, oh, it happened. And right before the curtain comes down, he takes a big sword and just twists it. And then you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Great. I liked it. I really liked it. It ramped up the tension to something you saw coming, and then added something you didn't. And before that, I love that, I said the river pulls him off stage. The tiger pulled him off stage. And I like that she was suspicious that he chose her boss, which he mentioned while she was in the audience. But anyway. Whew. Oh, and then after that, I was still confused. I thought they were both Moran. And I was like, wait, was that just that relationship a lie? Because he went back home and he was with somebody else now. And I thought they were married, but then someone told me that they were just engaged. But then elsewhere in the Wikipedia it said they got betrothed. So I don't know. But I was like, oh, he just used her. That's dirty. This guy is like, Are these just multiple personalities that he's pretending to be all these people? They're aliases? Like, I literally wrote that down and tweeted it. And I was just like, this is, I'm so excited to find out the answer. But, and then the detective who showed up at the stabbing was reminding me of Willem Dafoe's character in the Boondock Saints. You should definitely check it out. It's nothing specific that was reminding me, just the feel of him in that moment. But yeah, it was very good. I said, so Vijay is not actually playing different characters. His character has different aliases. But anyway, when Dr. Moran comes back and they have the musical number. I loved the kids in at the beginning. It was a great musical number. The King of Magic is here. They were talking about swagger. But that one was very nice, and I wanted Vijay's orange sunglasses. I just wanted to own them. That was a very superfluous tweet, but I liked it. And then when the reporters have to go, when the reporter gets the new show, and her first guest to try to get is Dr. Moran, who's never said yes to a single interview. She has to find him, and she accidentally asks him for help in finding himself, and he messes with her. Love that. Love that detail. It just added an extra layer. It wasn't necessary to the plot, but it definitely made it more interesting, and that's something that some films just don't remember, is that if something may not be necessary to the plot, but it can make the scenes more interesting. Because think of it. She goes up to him, she says, "Where can I find Dr. Moran?" And he says, "That guy who's bumbling." And she's like, "Oh, that guy? What are we gonna do?" And she gets him to help by offering him rose milk, which looks delicious. Is that like strawberry milk? I want some. And instead of just admitting, he misleads her and says, "I will make sure he's there," which he keeps that promise. But he shows up, he's like, "He told me to take his place. I'll do my best." And she's just like, and then she finds out that it really is him, and she's like, "Oh, you're the nice person. You're so..." And she just has that turn, as opposed to, "Hey, can you tell me where Dr. Moran is? I'm Dr. Moran. I'd like to interview you. I don't do interviews. Come on. Okay." And then he just goes and does the interview. Much less interesting, but still does the plot justice technically, because he's apprehensive. He's like, "I don't want to." That would be so less interesting, but still make sense for the plot. That went down a little rabbit hole there. But I was shocked by some of the stuff that was being talked about in the interview, especially the 5.2 million medical mistakes last year. Quick aside, this movie went into production in early February and released mid-October. That's 8 months to shoot, edit, score, and release a film and distribute and trailers, and holy moly, 3-hour film too, a 3-hour action film. I just love it. And the effects that they were doing, like they literally go like this and things of that nature. And he chokes himself in the same moving shot. That's just crazy. I just had to throw that out there. But and then when I started calling him Vijay, because I wasn't sure if it was Moran or not. And when they're talking about him possibly getting someone to marry, and he's just like, "That would, if I found the right woman, it would be perfect." And he looks at her, and then she says, and you can kind of see that she's like, "I like you." But then she says, "I hope you get that too." And he's like, just disappointed for a moment that she's not on live air, like saying, "I'll marry you." And everyone in the theater laughed. Every 3 people in the theater. There were not a lot of people in the theater. There was me and a couple. And I kind of had the feeling that that couple wanted to get busy a bit, because right when the movie started, the guy stood up, who wasn't there when I came in, stood up with his flashlight on and just looked around the theater, because I don't think he believed his date that there was someone else in the theater. That's important to the review. And then she offers him rose milk again. He goes, "Rose milk, huh?" And then again, Whole theater erupts in laughter. All three people. Now we're getting into the more meatier parts of the unique structure. This is why I started really getting into it. The structure of Mersal is pretty dope. I didn't even know how much at this point, because it gets even better. Still don't know what the medical kidnapping is about. #intrigued. And what this movie does with hurting children is so effective towards its means. And by that, I'll explain the first time we see a child injured. She gets hit in the face by a truck in slow motion with blood flying. Not in a Zack Snyder 300 kind of way, but just in a holy shit, I just saw a 12-year-old get smacked in the face by a moving vehicle. There's no weird, this is a fake head thing. It is clearly the actress, and the car just comes and goes, and you see blood. And it does it multiple times. And it was, I literally said in the theater, oh shit. And in my tweet I went on and said, WTF, I've never seen something so brutal in a movie. Later in the movie, I see someone's arm get cut off, and it's an adult who's fighting, and it just feels, it was cool, but it felt like I had seen it before. It did not have a shock factor, it had a cool factor. This, with her head being oh my gosh. It was, I can't describe it in a way that would have you feel the effect it had when I saw it. So if you haven't seen this movie, I don't know how you got this far if you haven't seen it, but if you've gotten this far, you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, jeez. And then we get even more fucked up because the ambulance driver is getting commissions from certain government hospitals wanting people to bring their kids there, and then after that he first off lies. Like, he lies about one place that's 2 minutes away instead of just going to a place because he'll get a commission, but they don't want to give him a good enough commission, so he goes to a place 10 minutes away, and she gets there and the doctors are like, yes, we'll save her, you just need to put down 600,000 rupees, which I don't know how much that is, but that's insane. And you have to sign for it and agree to pay it. And then, but they know she's gonna die, so he say, I need you to just make it look like she'll make it until we get him on there, and then do the surgery, and she'll die, and we'll tell her that she died. But then she dies before any actual surgery happens, and they say, make sure to make it look like surgery was done. And he comes out, the doctor, and he's like, I'm sorry. And then the crook who was talking to them before, I mean, they're both crooks, but he's like, you need to handle this. And the crook comes back out and he's like, you need to calm down and give us the 150,000 rupees you still owe, and you can take your daughter. And they are distraught, and they're basically telling him to shut up and leave without your daughter. And you can only have her when you give us the money. And it is so disgusting. And the mother said something along the lines of, are you bargaining with a dead girl's body as bait? Or something along that. I don't think it was bait, but it was just manipulative and dirty and disgusting, and it seemed so plausible it just seemed like that shit is happening somewhere. And then she killed herself. And like the other impactful moments, that was slow motion, just as she fell on the ground and blood came out of her mouth, and it was brutal. And you saw her husband, when he heard the window crash, just die again inside. So, at that point, those 4 assholes who got kidnapped and got killed, got kidnapped, yeah, they deserve to die. And he has been caught by the police and reveals the addresses of the 4 people, because that little girl would have survived if she had gone to the first hospital. 10 minutes. It's a little contrived because it's a 10-minute drive, and if she had gone there 10 minutes earlier, she would have been okay, but it's so effective, and all of them would have been saved. All 4 of them would have been saved by the police if the police had gotten there literally 10 minutes earlier. So, let those jerks burn. And then he says, do you know the incurable disease our people suffer from? Memory loss. And that struck a chord, because that exactly feels like what's going on in this country. Too many people have memory loss. Too many bad things are happening that they just start not affecting you. Like, we just had another shooting in Texas. And the Vegas shooting isn't even old. But literally, it's a psychological thing that if you start getting inundated with too many threats, too many crises, your psyche will just shut those threats down. They will, just for your own sanity. Because if every messed up thing that was happening in the world affected us all at once, as it would, we would all be blubbering insane. If the true weight of every misfortune was put upon our shoulders, we would break. So, for as action-packed and charismatic and fun as this movie is, it is so perfectly hiding a powerful, real message in it. And not even hiding it, it's there. It's part of the plot, but it doesn't feel like too much. It doesn't feel like this movie is only a preach movie. People can enjoy it, and that's the great thing, because people who aren't thinking about this, people like me who don't think about this every day, can go and enjoy a good movie and get a great lesson alongside it. And then the jerks, I said damn scumbags, were trying to take out Dr. Moran because he's a good man. I was still confused about who was who, if it was all Dr. Moran or not. But then Ninja Stars came out of him. I said I hope he kicks their asses, because I thought he could do a lot of action. Not as much as Vetri, but enough. And then Ninja Stars came out and just started slicing the jerks on the face, which was great. And I went, whoa, now I got it. The shot where he catches the sledgehammer from hitting Moran in the face, and you see both Vijay characters in one shot, which is Vetri. It was great. It was like, if this is the camera, he's about to get hit in the face, and a hand catches it, and then it comes around, and both characters, Moran and Vetri, are in the same handheld moving shot, and it looks perfect. It was great. I could not tell where the CGI was anywhere when they were in the same shot together. Which, but I thought it was I thought it was a prestige trick. Like they had been working together the whole time at first. Not true. Vetri had just been hiding himself. And then there was a real intermission, and the first ad was for MoviePass, which is how I see movies, because it's a hell of a lot cheaper, and that's why I get the joy of seeing these in a theater, because it is essentially free. Saves me a lot of money on my normal movie-going experience anyway, and then I get to see all these movies that I didn't have access to. It's great. But there was a real intermission. It wasn't like in other movies where it says intermission then keeps rolling. This was not re-edited. It had a stopping point and a starting point. It was great. When we come back to Vetri's love interest, I'm sorry, I don't remember. I think I wrote it somewhere. I don't remember off the top of my head, but she pours milk into like her coffee and it spilled. It was not a plot thing. I just noticed it. I thought it was funny. And then she sees Vetri and wants to call the police, I guess. And he just, from like 15 feet away, just goes, and the phone just goes, whoosh. And I was like, I wish I could snatch my phone like that. That would be pretty dope. Let's silence those notifications. I forget who was. I wrote the guy looking for Vetri. I want to slap him so hard. I don't remember exactly what that was. Oh wait. Oh, I think that was the doctor from 30 years ago. But Moran found Vetri. Oh yeah. Because he came and he had Moran's wife or fiance, differing reports, and his mother kidnapped with knives to their necks. That was effective. That made me want to hate him. That made me hate him so much. Thank you for the likes. But then Moran found Vetri, which was dope. And it, like I said earlier, here it looked like I said Vijay was choking Vijay, but I think I forget if it was Moran choking Vetri or the other way around. But they were in the same shot, and it looks so real. I look at The Social Network, where Armie Hammer plays the Winklevoss twins, and I can tell when one of the Winklevoss twins in the shot is just a CGI face of Armie Hammer over it, because that was the double in the shot. This, no idea. And that movie got such accolades about it. There was nothing. I couldn't tell. In Captain America, the First Avenger, where I like when he's tiny Steve Rogers, I can still kind of tell that something's going on. It's not obvious, but it's like, did they clone him? Jeez. Anyway. Great job with that. I said Vadivu. Vidivu, you traitor, which was the friend. This is what was really confusing me, because it was always Vidivu with Vetri and Moran. So I was like, wait, he's not twins. So why is that guy always with him? I'm confused. I'll just wait to see if I can figure it out. Thankfully, the movie did answer that question. And then, we, with no fanfare, we jump back 30 years, which I loved. I got so confused when we saw Vijay acting as a third character. I said, love the pregnant lady, and also that the intro of Vetra Maran was teased so, and I put a question mark, was teased so much earlier in the film. Because this is the great thing. It didn't feel like little teasing flashbacks. It just felt like the movie Gamer, which took scenes from the future in the story and used them to lay emotion over the characters. So it just kind of felt like they decided to foreshadow some stuff, when in reality, unbeknownst to me, they were flashbacks, which I was wondering why the name just seemed like Moran and Vetri's together. But for Vetri Moran, and I was confused. I thought it might have been Moran before he became a doctor, because they, especially when they mentioned the 5 rupees kind of doctor. But his wrestling was awesome, but really good job. I felt like so proud that he got to have the kid. It was cool. And then his song, all the locations have been good, but that specific song sequence, the locations were amazing. I love them. Anyway, when he's getting on the train to leave and he's saying goodbye to his wife's mother, and the wife was using sign language and having a bet of whether she'd beat her mom's record for a number of kids, and there are 19 kids. Huh. That's a, oh my gosh, that's a record. And then they get into the Festival of Colors, which I love it. Every time I see it, I want to be there. I want to join in one day. It just looks so beautiful. Oh, and then they spent like almost an hour with Ventra Moran. It was great, especially since you don't know it's a flashback. It was very Quentin Tarantino-esque without bringing attention to it being Quentin Tarantino-esque, which sometimes he brings attention to it and sometimes he doesn't. But this is just like, what did he have, an hour? He had almost an hour just to their father's story. But then there was a cool fight scene. All I wrote about that was, why did he yank the guy out of the movie theater? Still a cool fight, though. And the wife calling him Muttonhead. That was good. I loved seeing Muttonhead's home life. When he's inspiring when he doesn't want to give up the land and he inspires his town to build the hospital. Well, first there was the fire. Wait, no, that wasn't first. He said a town that buys water will never prosper. They shouldn't be trying to force him to sell his land anyway, because it's his. And then the old crow was hilarious, and the popsicle she had that she kind of waved at at him was so great. Gautam Ramadas asked, who did you like, Vetri Maran or Vetri Maran? I don't know if I have one, only because while I was watching the movie, I knew that there were 3 characters played by Vijay, but I didn't know the dynamic. I didn't know when the switches came. So I was actually just getting wrapped up in the mystery of, who is this on screen now? What time is it? I didn't know that Vetri Maran was their dad. I didn't know we went back in time when I was watching it. So it's so hard because honestly, at the end of the day, I was figuring out that all 3 of them were different in like the last half hour. All 3 are awesome. Yeah, who I like the most, I don't know at this point. I think they were great, and in the first 2 hours or so, I was confused if it was Maran, or if I was confused when Vetri was on screen. Sometimes I thought it was Maran and didn't figure it out till later. But I have no idea, honestly. I'm not trying to pander or anything. I just don't have an answer. Wow! I can't believe I don't have an answer. That is such an accomplishment on the movie's sake. Honestly, if I can't decide, I could pick apart stuff I love, like Captain America the Winter Soldier. I have a couple notes. I don't have an answer. That is gonna aggravate me. If I have an answer later, Gautam, I will add it to my Twitter thread, and I'll put it below on the YouTube video when I upload this to YouTube. But I don't have an answer. I think I'll say tentatively Maran, because he was doing what his father would have wanted him to without the mission. There was no revenge mission for him. That was Vetri's path. But Maran was a good person without that, without his memory of the horrible events. So I think Vetri is cooler. Maran is a better person deep down, only because he was doing it without a mission. That's just technicality. Not saying that Vetri is a worse person. And then Vetri Maran. I personally like Vetri Maran, the father character. And then I was just coming back around, and I was like, wait, but Vetri Maran was doing exactly the same thing as Maran was doing, but even bigger. I don't have a solid answer for you, unfortunately. Wow. For a movie that was filmed and edited and released in 8 months, they did a great job of making someone like me love all 3 of Vijay's characters equally. I'm flabbergasted. I don't... I'm gonna be so annoyed that I couldn't answer that question. I'm sorry. I'll try to mull over it more. I think it's how are the fight scenes? The fight scenes were solid. They were very good. They weren't crazy on a Vivagam level, but I don't think a Vivagam level crazy fight scene would have been right for this movie. So I think they were just right. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes you want a... It's It's hard to describe. Sometimes you want a Captain America Winter Soldier level fight scenes, and then sometimes you want... I don't have another example. But if there was a Vivigam Captain America Winter Soldier level fight scenes in this movie, it would not have been right for the movie, I don't think. So I think the fight scenes were pitch perfect for the movie they were in. Okay. And then the fire with the two kids. That wasn't as brutal as the kid getting hit in the head, but they do not shy away from showing how bad this can get for people, for kids. They chose kids. It was very smart for them to choose kids because it just gets at you. Like, you could see adults get hurt all day on movies, and we're so desensitized that's like, yeah, they're fighting. But to see kids get hurt, and then Vetramaran climbed up the tilting Ferris wheel and then pulled it down. I did say is it too early to decide that he is the biggest badass ever? So that, in terms of badass moments, I'll say Vetramaran for doing that to knock over the water tower. Whew. And Selvi and Kalayan were not saved, which was another brutal moment. But I do commend them for having made the change they want to see in the world and not just hang around and wait for it to happen. They decided they were going to make the hospital. And they did it. And immediately I love the hospital and just didn't trust any of the doctors that came in, which is unfortunate because Vetramaran was so innocent and so trusting, which I got to admire Maran more for that, because he was doing the same good work that Vetramaran was doing, but he was not disillusioned to how the world worked. Which, how could Vetramaran even see that coming? This was before everything got bad. But, this is what I was saying. I'm confused again. Is this the backstory of Maran with the hospital, or is this the third character, Vetramaran? But I sorted it out, obviously. And then, as soon as the doctors were talking about owning the hospital, I just knew that could not be good. That was going to be bad news for everyone. And everything was seeming amazing so far with the free healthcare, and then I was just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and just as I was thinking that, she went into labor, and just like the plot with the girl who had smashed her head, and they were just driving around trying to find a commission, the woman with the cesarean plot of telling them they need a cesarean when they don't. I immediately hated it, and I was just stuck in the theater for the next 10-15 minutes just hating it. Nothing personal, just service. What do you mean, Gotham? But I was hating the cesarean plot the whole time. It was just twisting me inside, which points to the movie, because that's exactly what it wanted to do to you. But, they were so dirty. And when she starts having the cesarean, the music is so beautiful, and you keep cutting away to Thierry Milan with, Ventry Milan with his son, Maran. Vetri Maran. Sorry. With his son, Maran, telling him the story, but inside, you just saw it happening, how just disturbing it was for her stomach to get cut open. Vetri says in his last monologue, that was so badass, it's just service. But that whole time, I was just, it made me uneasy. And as soon as the baby was about to come out, I was like, don't tell me the baby is dead. You said you didn't know how to use anesthesia, so that's the way it's gonna be, that it happens. And if the mother dies, and they just garbage bag the baby so quick, like some week-old milk that they need to throw out. It disgusted me, and her passing was so emotionally charged and sad. And then Maran saw his mom's hand go limp. And it just got me so much, so deeply. This movie is so good at twisting your emotions and manipulating them and getting you to feel exactly how it needs you to feel, which is a good thing. But damn. And then I didn't know who was throwing the bottles at them, and like, again, the shot of his memory loss had already been foreshadowed, but the first bottle thrown hit the kid, and the baby was just dumped in the landfill like nothing. It was so dispassionate. But then Vetri Maran fights back, and he is just gutting them. He slices one dude's arm off, and it's just glorious. It's great. You should see Theory. It was Atlee and Vijay's first film together before this. I heard about it when I was reading up on this on Wikipedia before I sat down for the review. Is it on Netflix? Because if it's on Netflix, I could definitely check it out. But I see movies in theaters because I'm part of a Movie Pass program. So it makes it, which essentially makes it free for me. So it's easier for me to see movies in theaters. Otherwise, it's really expensive for me to buy movies. But if it's on Netflix, I will do that as soon as possible because this was great. But, and then I put that guy's plan for the land is fucked up and all too realistic. Another moment that this movie so perfectly shows a messed up situation that is all the more messed up because it seems plausible, where he wanted the land originally to buy it, but he said no, so he lit the fire to try to scare people away, but it still worked in his favor because they made the hospital and came in as a doctor and ended up owning it. It was messed up, and I know shit like that happens every day. And after Theory, Maran is defeated, Vetri, I said Theory. Vetri Maran was defeated. His baby Vetri raises its hand with light illuminating it, and it was haunting, beautiful, and bittersweet, and just that got me again. And I loved, at the full end of it, I love that backstory. How they gave it an hour, how they let it sit with you, they really spent the time there. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It was horrible. It was what it needed to be, and it gave it the time it needed to give. And I wouldn't have taken a minute away from it. And I love the twist where he was like, I'm not Vetri, I'm Moran. And the guy starts freaking out. He calls his nephew and Moranis tell him, don't be stressed and mix up our names. Because he said, it's not Vetri, it's Moran that's over there. It's not Moran, it's Vetri that's over there. But he stabs him in the place that gives him 5 minutes to live. And the nephew goes looking for help and gets a taxi. And you just see that there's another scammy taxi driver who like kisses a photo of his kids and like, yes, I'll get you to the hospital as soon as possible. And I love how it came back. So many things came back in the end. That, the smashing bottles on the main doctor, and when Vetri gets hit by a truck that smashed through the wall just as the little girl got smashed in the head. I just love those pieces of imagery that are referencing impactful moments in the film, but earlier. I could have worded that better, but I hope you know what I mean. I just love that it came back. All those little touches were so good. And the music for Moran's fight, when he steps up after he saves Vetri, it was a great example of simply amazing fight music. So good. But then they came to a moment where they did that together, or they high-fived. I think they just did that. And I was, all caps, how do they get the CGI so good that they can high-five each other? I couldn't believe it. And then I was so excited for people chanting "Free Vetri." Now, this is the end. I love that Mersal has an amazingly powerful and timely message. I said that earlier about the 21 people who died in a government hospital. But I was so excited. And I was so excited for Vetri disappearing. I knew it was going to happen because he kept raising it up. But it was so beautiful, just beautiful. And he's gone. It was great. My end review was a movie with good action, good music, a great message, and a story that is full of twists, turns, emotions, character, and a total lack of desire to spell things out for you too soon. You will be confused until it rewards you. I'm going to add, rewards you for your patience. Definitely recommended. And I found 2 posters to add to it, which doesn't have Moran in those 2. But, it was good, and it's so deftly played with the idea that these are 3 characters that look very similar, played by the same actor, and uses it against you to build a suspenseful underlying mystery of who is that? Who is that right now? I loved it. It was great. The action wasn't crazy levels, but that would have been inappropriate for this movie. And I'm so glad I saw it. It was 3 hours. Wow. It needed every second that it had. And it was so good. Oh, whew. That was a ride for me. Thank you for hanging out, SuperViewers. I hope you saw the movie. If you did, tell me what movie I should see next in theaters. I know Tiger's coming up. And tell me what you thought about this one. I think I'm going to be doing a live stream on Riff.tv for Bahubali because it's on Netflix with Selena coming up. But that would be cool. All right. Peace out, SuperViewers. Remember, don't stop. And subscribe and like and all of them good things.